I'm Vinnie Politan. Thank you for joining us. Big trial starting today, the Baldwin movie shooting. This has been a long time in the making, but it started today. Now, this is the first trial of 2 trials, but what we learned today is that this movie set was perhaps the most dangerous movie set in the history of making movies. I mean, out of control what we learned today, absolutely shocking. So let me explain to you why this was so dangerous and almost predictable what happened here. So let's start with ammunition. Let's start with the ammo. Now, ammunitiontogo.com posted this diagram on its website. Take a look. And this explains to you, to me, to everyone, exactly what's in a live round, okay? You've got the bullet, right? You see it in the bottom right, that the bullet, that's the projectile that comes out and strikes and can kill you. You've got the gunpowder that is behind the bullet, the casing that surrounds it. And what I want you to pay really close attention to, because this is going to be important, the primer. You see the primer, that little silver circle on the bottom, okay? The little silver circle on the bottom, that's the primer, okay? This is what a live round looks like on the inside and on the outside. Now, let's take a look at what a live round looks like versus a dummy round. Go ahead, there it is. Okay, on the left is the live round. Remember that circle I was telling you about? There you see that circle completely intact. That's the primer. The one on the left, live round. In the middle, that's a dummy round. And the way you can tell is you look at that primer and it's depressed, right? Looks like there's a little hole in it. Something happened to it. That one's not a live round. That's not going to kill anyone. The one on the left can kill you. The one in the middle doesn't even leave the gun. And then you've got another form of a dummy round on the right, which has the primer completely removed. Looks almost like a donut on the bottom, okay? Very important to understand. So do we get that, the difference? Live round on the left, the 2 on the right are dummy rounds. So live round, you're looking for that middle primer being intact, not depressed. Now let me show you a piece of evidence in the case. This was a dummy box. Okay, actual evidence. This was supposed to be a dummy box. See all the dummies? And then the one that the arrow is pointing to, the primer is intact. That's a live round. There's a live round in the dummy box that was photographed here. So that live round that killed Halyna Hutchins is not the only live round on the set of this movie, Rust. Inside a dummy box, right, where you're loading these real guns, supposedly with dummy rounds, there's another live round for you, folks. Now, I want you to take a look at the bandolier that Alec Baldwin was wearing that contains some bullets. Now, the picture, you know, it's a little bright on one side. You have to look kind of closely. But you can even tell by the colors on this one that the 2 rounds on the left side of this picture of the bandolier that Alec Baldwin is wearing contains 2 live rounds. So not just the one that was in the gun that killed Halyna Hutchins. Not just the one that's in the dummy box. Alec Baldwin is wearing 2 live rounds. What's going on this set? This is insanity. Insanity. These are not prop guns. These are all real guns being used as props. So to make them look more real, you have to put ammo in them, but you put dummy rounds in because they look like bullets except for the primer. That's how you can tell. You can also tell by shaking it. 2 live rounds on Alec Baldwin. It gets worse, don't worry. Now, the woman on trial is the armorer. She's in charge of the guns, handling of these deadly weapons. They're not prop guns. These are deadly weapons, real guns, real guns. Here's Halyna Hutchins, the defendant. And this is a picture of her. Now, you can't really see it here, but there's an actual photo of her, the person in charge of loading the dummies, and she's got a live round on her lap. Look to the bottom right. You see right there? We have a closer look at that. We pull that out. Another live round. So what you're looking at in the middle is a blow-up of what's in the bottom right corner. The armorer took a picture with a live round on her lap. Now, there was also a photo, and this is from evidence, of the outside of the box. The 45 long Colt dummies is the way they're labeled with a little JS there. So there was a photo of this, and they asked Halyna Hutchins, the armorer, about this. What's the JS for? She said, I don't know. Let me ask my father. So she calls her father, talks to him, and he texts her a picture from a box that they have at their house, okay? Because her father is like this legendary armorer in Hollywood. So he texts a picture of the dummies at his house, which is her house. Take a look. 45 long Colt dummies with the JS. Put 2 and 2 together. She's the one who brought these dummy rounds from her home, apparently. And there were live rounds mixed up in the dummy boxes, and that's apparently how they are spread all over this movie set. This is insane. Let me bring in Court TV legal correspondent Kelly Craft, who is joining us live in Santa Fe, New Mexico, where the first trial in the Baldwin shooting is happening. Big case, lots of interest. What was the scene like at the courthouse today for day 1, Kelly?
Well, hi there, Vinny. A very busy scene. Media crews from all over the country, of course, are here sitting inside the courtroom listening. Inside that courtroom, I have to tell you, Vinny, we cover so many trials. I will tell you, the jurors, you can tell they are really interested in this case. In front of them, they have monitors, so they're able to see everything really up close. And they are leaning in, looking at those monitors, especially today when the state played some body cam footage from the first responder on the scene. Now, the media was not able to broadcast that. Court TV is live streaming this trial. We were not able to live stream that particular video, which shows the moments after Halyna Hutchins had been shot. But the jurors were watching that so closely. Now, when the defendant, Halyna Hutchins, was watching that as well, you could tell that sometimes she would turn away. She wasn't watching it fully, kind of head down at some points. But then eventually you heard some video footage of her. This is after she realizes what's happened, what she's told has happened, and she's yelling and she's sobbing, saying, oh no, oh no. But at trial, her appearance, Vinny, is very different than what it was on the set of Rust. On the set of Rust, she had different color hair. Even when the investigators responded, they said, who is the armorer? And one of the crew members said, you're not gonna miss her. You can see her with the varying colored hair. But at trial, she has one solid color, a darker brunette, and she wears a suit. So a very different appearance that she's giving to the jurors than what she had on the movie set of Rust.
All right, let's go to the opening statements where for the first time we're hearing much more of the story. How did the state describe what happened here and describe the defendant?
Well, Vinny, the state really just hammered on the fact that She did not have enough experience to be the lead armor, and she failed to follow several critical safety steps. Let's get right into it and play some of that opening statement from the state for you.
The evidence you're going to hear throughout this trial is that the defendant was unprofessional and that she failed to do the essential safety functions of her job, and that these failures resulted in live ammunition being spread throughout this entire set. Once the live ammunition was on the set, she failed to detect it because she didn't follow those essential safety protocols that required her to inspect every round before they were placed into the gun. The evidence will show that the defendant treated the safety protocols as if they were optional, rather than if people's lives counted on her doing her job correctly. We will show you that as a direct result of her failures, Ms. Gutierrez caused Ms. Hutchins' death.
The state really painted this picture of the defendant here, Vinnie, as being irresponsible and careless. Let's listen to more of the opening statement.
I do want to leave you with one final statement, and this is a statement that Ms. Gutierrez made when she was being interviewed on the day of the shooting. She says at the end, I don't know. I wish I would have checked it more. And so do we.
And that was a really compelling way to end the state's opening statement, talking about things that they could have done differently, that the defendant said she wishes she could have done differently. Vinnie, we heard a lot from law enforcement officials today that they were saying, they were testifying that they, in hindsight, would have done a lot of things differently. In particular, their interaction with Alec Baldwin. They played a video of Alec Baldwin immediately after the shooting in which one of the investigators walked up to him. Alec Baldwin is on the phone talking to somebody. He says to the investigator something along the lines of, what do you need? And then he hangs up the phone, tells the person he has to call him back, and the investigator talks about how he wished that he would have handled his interaction with Alec Baldwin much differently after that shooting.
This is one that can very easily have been prevented, and I think that's the sort of the motivation behind the prosecution here, is that this is just so beyond what should happen on a movie set when you're handling deadly weapons. And the fact that these live rounds are spread throughout the set is insane. So what does the defense do? What did they do when it was time for them to kind of lay the framework for their case in front of this jury?
And Vinnie, the defense painted a completely different picture of Halyna Gutierrez than the state presented to the jurors, talking about the fact that Halyna Gutierrez is a scapegoat, that the reason Halyna is on trial is because she was the least powerful person on the movie set of Rust. The other night when we were talking, you asked me, do we think that the defense counsel is going to point a finger at Alec Baldwin? And he certainly did, talking about Alec Baldwin being the one who violated so many safety protocols, and how even did a violation of something that all of us learned from a time when we're little, not to point a gun directly at someone if you're going to, unless you're going to shoot someone. So defense counsel really pointed the finger at Alec Baldwin, saying he was a producer, he wanted to cut costs, and talked about the fact that Halyna Gutierrez was responsible for two jobs. Not only was she the armorer, she was also in charge of handling some of the props, and that just was uncalled for, that a movie set should not have someone that's an armorer and also having to handle other tasks like rolling cowboy cigarettes. Let's listen to some of defense counsel's opening statement.
The actor, Alec Baldwin, pointed a gun on that set, and he either had his finger on the trigger and the hammer cocked, or he pulled the trigger as he was pointing that at Ms. Hutchins and Mr. Souza, who was right behind her. And make no mistake, this is not a prop gun, this is a real gun. Mr. Baldwin pointed it right at him, either had his finger on the trigger and depressed, or pulled it, causing that gun to fire and hit Ms. Hutchins.
And Vinnie, I also wanted to point out that one of the things the defense counsel talked about was this state theory that you can tell the difference between these dummy rounds and live rounds. He contends that the set was using a mix of cheap ammunition, cheap dummy rounds, and saying that you really couldn't tell the difference, that some of the cheap dummy rounds that were found didn't rattle. So as you were mentioning in the beginning of your show, talking about you can tell by a rattle, he contends, we'll have to see what expert he brings forth to talk about this, that some of the dummy rounds found did not rattle and also did not have, or also had that silver primer. So we'll have to see how the evidence unfolds in regards to that. But definitely it's very clear that not only the investigators testifying on the stand want to do things differently, the people on the set wanted to do things differently as well, hearing that from Hannah Gutierrez herself in that video footage.
Wow. All right. And it's just day one. Kelly Craft, thank you so much. Oh, you got a little sneak peek. Let's bring him in. Our think tank joining us tonight from the Bronx, criminal defense attorney Renee Hill. Also with us in Phoenix, Arizona, the attorney who represented Jodi Arias, Kirk Nurmi. Someday we got to introduce him without mentioning that name. Maybe we'll, all right, we'll bleep it out. And in Los Angeles, California, president of the West Coast Trial Lawyers and former federal prosecutor Nima Rahmani. Great to see everyone tonight. Okay, Renee Hill, let's start with these live rounds all over this set. All over this set. Why? Why were they all over this set?
Huge mistake, Vinny. There's absolutely no reason that they should be on the set.
But they were. So why were they? Why were they? Why were they? I have my answer. What's your answer? What's your
answer?
The
armorer brought them in. The armorer brought them in.
But why? Why did the armorer bring them in? Why did the armorer bring?
Well, I mean, it appears, Vinny, from what we have seen here, that she didn't pay attention to what was in the box. Right? If she brought these from home, if they were mixed in with batches that her father had, she didn't look through the box. She didn't analyze it before she started distributing these bullets and putting them into the prop guns. And that's how they ended up on the set.
Kirk Nurmi, would you like to add to that? Is there a reason why this particular armor was so bad?
Well, she was completely negligent in her duties. I know there's this.
But do we know why she was bad? Why was she so bad? Why was this a bad armor?
Well, there's assertions that there was drug and alcohol use on the set by her that could have clouded her judgment when she wasn't paying attention to. I know there's this debate about, oh, she wasn't trained, she wasn't qualified, this was her second job. But in the opening statement, the defense attorney comes forward and says how she was mentored by this wonderful armorer that is her father, right? So, they're trying to have it both ways from the defense perspective, but ultimately, you demonstrated she brought these from home. She wasn't paying attention to what she was doing. And this argument that she couldn't tell the difference, I don't buy it. It might be something that helps Mr. Baldwin when he faces trial, if there's so-called cheap weaponry, what Kelly was talking about. But ultimately, this armor was completely out of control and did not care about doing her job.
Yeah. Here's my theory, Nima. Tell me what you think about it. She was hired because it didn't cost any money. She was cheap. If you're going to bring in like a really experienced armor, it's probably going to cost a lot more money. This is a lower budget film. I mean, I wish we had that budget for this show, but it's a lower budget movie, okay? She is inexperienced, she's young, she's cheap, and she's not just in charge of the guns, she's rolling cowboy cigarettes, Nima? And that comes back again to the money. And who is concerned about the money when they make a movie? Nima, who's concerned about the money?
The producer, Vinny.
Well, who's the producer? Wait, who's the producer?
Alec Baldwin. Okay, Alec Baldwin.
Bingo! Now we know why this set was a mess. Go ahead, Nima.
Vinny. She's cheap, she's inexperienced, she's acting in dual roles as an armorer and an assistant prop master. That's all well and good. But Vinny, none of that changes the fact that she brought live rounds on set, period. That alone, I mean, you're playing Russian roulette with people's lives. If that's proven, That's manslaughter, Vinny. And then she's getting high on set. So there's plenty of evidence. Look, this could have been avoided. There might be other folks civilly responsible, but we're talking about manslaughter. We're talking about criminal negligence. Now, all the civil lawsuits, some of which have been settled and some of which are ongoing, it really comes down to one person, the person that is responsible for the live rounds being there and loading the weapon, Vinny. That is why Hannah Gutierrez Reed is guilty. I agree, they went cheap and someone died as a result, but that doesn't change the criminal negligence in this case.
Oh, yeah. I'm not saying any of this is a defense for Hannah Gutierrez, but I'm saying the fact that she's the armorer, I think, comes back to Alec Baldwin. And when we come back, we're going to talk about that up next.